Welcome to an expansive life conversation with results architect Sandra Golgart. Our guest today is Sandra Tru. Sandra is a transformational guide, speaker, and soul mentor for conscious leaders and creators who are ready to stop performing for success and start leading from embodied truth. Through her signature SoulSet work, she integrates somatic intelligence, spiritual psychology, and energetic mastery to help high-performing individuals align their inner world with the life and impact they are here to create. Your journey to realignment from fear to freedom starts now. Live an expansive life.
We are. Welcome, everyone. Sandra, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you with us.
So excited to be on here. We had such a beautiful conversation getting to explore the topics of this podcast. I'm so glad that you asked me to join.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for being here. For everybody joining, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. You're in for an incredible hour. On this show, we talk a lot about becoming what you're seeking as opposed to seeking what you want to be.
Hmm.
And if you ever wanted an amazing example of someone who has become the positive energy, the love, and the transformation, welcome Sandra Tru. We're going to talk life. We're going to talk about the most fascinating topic that I don't think gets enough attention, which is love. And then Sandra's going to walk us through lovership, which is one of the topics I'm most anxious to get to and to learn from you in our hour today. So, Sandra, welcome to the show. If you can, for our viewers, give us a little bit of background on yourself, a little bit about your journey and how you arrived at becoming such an amazing transformational coach and speaker.
Thank you so much, Sandy. Well, you would probably want to hear some of my accolades, but I think that the impetus for me to move into this work was just carrying a whole lot of shame and carrying a whole lot of heartache and longing and having to deal with a very difficult childhood. Luckily, I was an artist and I am an artist, and I was in very early on in my life as a teenager. I was kicked out very early on in my teenage life, but I got into acting, and I started to explore how the personalities isn't set in stone, that we have the capacity to change our qualities. And I was having these very mystical experiences where I would practice something, and then all of a sudden on stage, I would have this kind of, what now in hindsight, with walking years of walking now a shamanic path, I'm like, that was really mystical. And at the same time, I was exploring yoga, and I was going down into bhakti yoga and Eastern philosophy, and devouring philosophy, and also practicing, because it really is, it goes beyond information, doing the practices that would help me essentially rewire my nervous system for living in balance, for being able to deal with the chaotic past and learn to change my story. So was figuring out what to do with these two amazing paths that were like the soul, the what was really making me come alive, but there were two different things, and I could not figure out how to put them together. But then through my own path and my own journey, and doing walking a medicine path also, I was able to see how they're actually one system. That on one side, yoga is the study of who we are beyond a personality, the philosophical practice and the study of this practice of union is about helping us remember that we are so much more than the stories that we name ourselves. And through acting, I was studying how we are not we can change our story, we can design ourselves, we can do character design. That's why I love, the architect name that you have, right? It's just like, yes, we get to architect our lives. It took me a long time to put this together. Actually, I went on to study spiritual psychology, neurolinguistic programming, tons of energy work. I taught yoga for many, many years. And then at some point, it was it just started to be what was happening. I was just starting to get deeper and deeper in my own transformations, which have been a continuous process. Really, you spoke about becoming, right? Like she has been become. It's the process continues, and it continues for all of us. So I've been working with entrepreneurs and speakers and authors for the past 5 7 years now, on developing their own, designing their own life by working on their own character, by designing their own character. That we change our life not by what we get, but exactly what you were saying, Sandy, but we design it through who we become. And it's beautiful to have goals, but how are those goals allowing us to have greater levels of alignment with our values, with our purpose, with the qualities that we want to embody, to have our lives say and reflect who we are.
Right. It's so beautiful. It's amazing how much like synchronicity pops up. Like I was literally just watching an amazing interview with Benicio del Toro, and he
Mm-hmm.
was talking about how he'll read the script, 8, 10, 12 times to really understand the words. But well before he ever tries to speak the words, he really tries to embody who is this person?
Mm-hmm.
Where are they coming from? Where are they at? And who are they becoming? And he embodies it much the way that you're talking.
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine that your career and experience as an actress like really helped you to see exactly what is happening in real life. And it sounds like that's exactly what you're describing.
I think I'm still in the business of script analysis, and before I used to be in the stage. Now I'm the stage. Now I create these containers of transformation where people get to try on different personalities for fit, and we hold the vision until that becomes real. And that's really beautiful because, yeah, like people that are working on what is the embodiment of that before I can be in trying to get a story or trying to share a story. What is the embodiment of that, which is what essentially you were picking up from his story, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to talk first about life, then we'll move to love and then lovership. Life in general, I think it's really this story. What brought me into this work was observing that most everybody would prioritize health as their number one priority, relationships number two, and then wealth number three. But in action, you could observe, and I'm observing myself during this time, the pursuit of wealth. I'm doing it at the cost or at the expense of my health, at the expense of relationships, mostly the relationship I have with myself.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until I realized that until I confronted those fears, like about really loving and accepting myself for who I am, the good parts, the amazing parts, and the shadow sides when you're out of balance and really falling in love with that, it couldn't welcome the rest of it in. And it really helped me see that oftentimes we're chasing the things that we think we want rather than becoming the essence of them and then allowing them in.
Mm-hmm.
So what, as you look at life and look at your own life, I'm a big believer that our best life is on the other side of our biggest fears.
Mm-hmm.
When I say that, what comes up for you?
um the first thing that comes to mind is how I've had and it has to do with the way I was brought up. I'm gonna get a little personal here.
Yeah.
um, I've had to leave the idea of family a couple of times where I was bonded very strongly to make a stand for my purpose and for where I'm going, because I believe that relationships, they are sacred containers, right? They are the sacred containers for transformation, where the unhealed parts of us will naturally arise so that we can have the gift of doing something with them, transform them, integrate them, so that we can move on to the next cycle of evolution. And because I've been in relationships where I am a revolutionary, right? It's just like I'm on a consistent change, and I've had to walk away from people that I've loved because they were not willing to do that revolutionary work in me. And also, I think because they were, with speaking at a soul level, they were the perfect guides, the perfect teacher at the perfect time for me to refine my intention to put this work out in the world, even though it didn't fit that container. So very grateful for that. But that's like, I can speak about business things, but when you asked the question, that was the thing, to be
Yeah.
on my own, to prioritize mm, what I'm here to do as a soul in a body, more than be validated for having the ideal family, or whatever that is, because culture really supports that. And it's a big thing. um
Yeah.
so yeah, not easy, but
Not easy at all. In fact, I think that is what most people, those are the constraints most people are living inside of, is that need to belong, that need for acceptance. And they're afraid of who their true self is, that they might not be accepted for
Mhm.
that. So I think what I'm hearing from you is getting over that fear of really honoring your truth of who you actually are. And
Mhm.
even knowing that could mean some hard no's or some boundaries, which are all a form of true kindness and true love.
100%.
Yeah,
100%. And I think that unless we are willing to embody and really to walk with our clear nose, then we can be affirmative with our energy. Then we can give our energy to what really makes us come alive, because we're in that maybe ambivalent, like in that in between space. And that in between space is quite dangerous, because it's like if we're in relationships where we're like, oh, maybe, yeah, or we're doing kind of work there, it's like, I don't know if I like it, I don't like it. But if we're living life in that state, instead of like it's a full yes or it's a full no, then we are not affirmative with our own life force. And when we're not affirmative with our own life force, why would we expect somebody else to meet us in that?
yeah,
So it requires like really knowing where I'm going, what are my values, what is my purpose, what are my passions, how am I living that right now.
right. Yeah, amazing. So I think one of the big questions everybody has when we talk about the topic of life comes down to the meaning of life.
Hmm.
Can you share your thoughts on how you approach that subject for yourself and for your clients when the topic of the meaning of life comes up?
Yeah, and it's so different because with all things, it's we're always going to be right for whatever it is that we decide. So the meaning of life must be personal, right? It
Yeah,
has to be personal, because what is meaningful to me and what I think my life is for, or what I want to do with my life, can never be duplicated or imitated. And it's so important that we all come up with our own definition of that. And I think a lot of my work is helping people and come up with that definition of like, how do you want to look back at your life, and what was meaningful, what was the thing that excited you're 90 years old, how do you want to be in your body, how do you what, like, I want to be proud because I did these things, or because I voted for these things with my actions, with my feelings, with my decisions. So much of that, it's like looking backwards. That's a really beautiful practice, right? Like thinking about, let me look backwards and how can I vote with my actions for that. And start the moment that we start voting with our actions, we're already embodying that future, which is really beautiful.
right.
For me, the meaning of life, I believe that we are here at a evolutionary level to do what nature does, that we are nature, and nature is forever attempting to create greater levels of intimacy and wholeness. It's forever reaching to connect, to create contact, to move and create greater union, to multiply, to expand on expanding, and to increase on increasing, and for the better of every cell, every organism around it. Nature does that. And I find nature to be my teacher, my guide, where I learn the most, right? It's where I go. It's my church. and
Right.
so and so when you're looking at nature, I live on the water. When I'm looking at the water, I know you do too, right? It's like water does these two things. She's forever moving and she's forever needing to connect, right? And so I believe that that is the meaning of my life. That is the meaning that I give my life. That's how I believe life becomes meaningful. And it goes very much into lovership, which we'll get to in a little bit. But I believe that we are forever attempting to touch, to create connection, because it is in that connection that we allow spirit to move through us. It is in those third spaces, and it's not this, it's not me, it's not you, but it's in those third spaces, right? When seeming different opposites get together and connect and something brand new and it's created. Those are the portals of spirit to be moving through us. Those are the portals of synthesis. And so to me, that's my task, to create greater levels of intimacy, wholeness, and connection, and sacredness and reverence in all of my relationships, right? Not just in my work, but all around me.
Right. Yeah, I love that. Um, I, the structure that I have embodied and brought to my own work, because on the one hand, wisdom tells me that I'm nothing. I'm
Hmm.
nothing in this universe. Love tells me I'm everything, right? And we kind of have to find our space in the middle where we know our truth exists. And
Hmm.
I feel like, certainly for myself, I feel that we were all brought here with constraints. And it's our job to uncover, discover, and dissolve those constraints to liberate our souls and be the boundless, limitless souls that we are and be completely free, which to me means everyone is doing exactly what they're doing and I can be okay with that. Not, I should be so free that everyone can be themselves. And that puts me in such a powerful place to then become what I want to become, not for anybody else, but for me, and then find a way to give that away, as my gift, to the world. And that to me all boils down to peace, like
Hmm.
that inner peace.
Hmm.
So, and I think it's beautiful because it keeps us growing. It puts us in a foundation of pure growth, um, and always evolving, always improving, but realizing everything is the way it is, and we can be okay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a couple of things that are present when you share that, it's that comparison.
Yes.
And yeah, like let's go into that one. The comparison is part of the human nature, right? It's just like it's hard not to compare. And I think it's important to evaluate what comparison means, right? And we hear that a lot, and like it creates so much suffering, and it does, but it can also be helpful. So it's hard not to compare because it's important, right? If I'm building something, if I'm building a system for a workflow for my business, it's like I want to make sure, I want to compare it with something that has worked or somebody else's who's showing me. I want to compare it. So in that way, is it in small things, it's important to use comparison as a way to evaluate our growth, right? How did I do last week in my exercises versus this week, etc. I think we get stuck when we start comparing our character, our human, our life story with other people's, because now we are going into a judgment of the human, of our human,
Right.
and that's really tricky. I also believe that our work here is to figure out where we are victims, because there is a part of the human psyche that I believe gets turned on or gets with victimhood. And I
For
think that
sure.
all of us in this conversation can look back and say, wow, I was getting something out of that little me mentality, out of having those negative thoughts. It actually is contagious, right? It's almost like we start to get turned on by the validation that we get for all the things that we have done, and why it's so real. Nobody loves me. And we want to know that that is there, and bring ourselves back to like there is a natural tendency to go into a shadow state of not being fully alive, and we want to carry that not as something negative but as a good ally that we want to keep right next to us, because that victim mentality loves to compare character, loves to judge the whole human. But when we keep it close, meaning we keep checking, do you need some support? Right? Can I help you with anything? What do you want? What do you need? Then we can start providing ourselves, giving ourselves what we need, right? I need space. I need to move. I need to dance. I need connection. So many people are not allowing themselves to live expansive lives, right? No pun intended, because they are stuck thinking that joy, play, aliveness is something that gets earned later on. Once I get that house or that next business or the best promotion, whatever it is, the next partner, then I will. But it's actually living in freedom is allowing ourselves to infuse our joys and the things that make us come alive into our daily life so that we are no longer in the victimhood mentality of obligation or burnout or self-betrayal, and we can be
Right.
affirmative with our energy, right? And so I believe
Absolutely.
like that's what's exciting about life, that we can design lives that make us breathe with the light. And how contagious is that, right, to the people around us?
Yeah. Well, I think there's energies. I try to break it down into three simple energies in my work. That there is a victim's energy, and that victim's energy is powerless. It
Mhm.
means that things are happening to you and you're only in a reactive state.
Mhm.
Then there's the ego as energy, which is slightly more powerful, but it has force and friction. You're trying to prove, and force life to be the way you think it needs to be so that you can be okay. But the
Mhm.
soul's energy is powerful. When
Mhm.
you really learn that there are no restrictions, all right, you get to step into who you are, your most powerful self, and then you become a change agent, right? A
Mhm.
powerful magnet of change
Totally.
for whatever you want your life to be. And
Yes.
so the comparison, I think, as you mentioned, is human. It's very natural to do it. One of the constructs that I've used is looked ahead, and I've created, like Benicio del Toro did. My character at 80 years old has very specific attributes that I want. And I put those out there and I let him talk back to me and
Mhm.
guide me with more patience, more compassion,
Mhm.
but also this approval that, you did things the right way to align so that you could end up like me when you're 80 years old. And that's
Mhm.
kind of the healthy way I've tried to use my ego in comparison to say, what would my 80-year-old version of myself want me to do today? How would he want me to respond? What action would he want me to take?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that's, I guess, helped me turn that inside out. What
Mhm.
what are some of the ways that you use the need to compare as it is for who you're becoming that
Mhm.
might be able to help someone in the audience?
Yeah, a beautiful practice. In many shamanic traditions, we practice using the wise elder as an image to go inwards and to keep and to develop. Right. So I've been working with this wise elder myself as an archetypal force that keeps guiding me to, and also just giving me solace in the many moments where there's nothing else to do. I know that I can go inside myself in a meditative state and see this wise elder and just lay on her lap and have her just look at me with this incredible delight of like how proud she is that I'm doing the thing, that I'm doing the courageous thing and choosing myself. But sometimes there's nothing to do but to allow ourselves to hold what is present,
Right.
to hold the capacity to feel life to the core, to the void, right? And that is something that we can't delegate or order on Amazon or pay somebody to help us do or take a pill to do. Like the real transformation happens when we start to allow ourselves to hold the moment, to hold life fully. And oftentimes when there's too much to do or we're overwhelmed, a lot of people think that it is because we can't feel anything. But I really believe that it's because we feel so much that we unplug and we disconnect from our bodies and we kind of leave the body, so we're numb. And
Mm,
so many of the practices that I use have to do with arrival, where we started this conversation today, and you invited me to do a tuning practice of doing a box breathing. Simple, right? Simple. What are the breathing practices that allow you to land into your body? That's one of them, right? But whether it's art, painting, singing, writing, journaling, allowing yourself to use your body, to use your words, to give, uh, to channel the energies that oftentimes feel like they're too much to hold, so that you stay incarnated in on earth. Because many of spiritual practices and spiritual teachers might seem like they're asking you to transcend and go beyond, land, beyond, the matter. But
Yeah.
we're here because we matter, because life matters. And so what we want to do is to get fully embodied with our human experience. And when we come to allow ourselves to find silence and stillness, whether that is because you yelled at a pillow and you allow yourself to cry, or you danced it out, or whatever that might, you painted in red because you didn't know what, but you channeled your emotions in a way that it was positive, that you created a container that helped you channel emotions without projecting it onto anyone else. And after you do that, there's this sacred pause. And in that sacred pause, insight flows in, because the necessity for greater patterns of creation that are always trying to come into us, it requires an empty system. It requires a system that has been shaken, that has been cleared out. It's like the importance of washing your dishes. You don't eat on dirty dishes. One of my good friends speaks of, he's a painter, and he speaks about it as cleaning his brush. That
Mm.
whatever you can do to get embodied, to clean your brush, to make sure that your emotions, your mental hygiene, your physical hygiene, your energetic hygiene is like the priority of your life.
Yeah.
I think that's
Absolutely.
it, right? For me.
Yeah. This is such a fascinating subject because I believe, and in my own observation, the clients that I work with mostly come in wanting to feel better, but what they're actually asking for is to get better at feeling and
Totally.
enjoy even the times when things don't feel good.
Mm.
One of the things that I know, like neuroscience shows, is when we don't like the feeling or we don't think we like it, we look to pacify, distract, and sedate ourselves so we don't have to feel. And that's what kind of keeps us in this comfort zone of like, ooh, I found some safe ways to not feel life. But like nature, you have to love all of it.
Yeah.
But sometimes we don't want to feel that. But those are oftentimes what I have found the biggest moments for growth is when you're like, ooh, why do I feel so stuck? Why do I feel so tense or,
Hmm.
icky?
Yeah.
The more I've learned to sit with that, the more transformation becomes available and open to me. So how did people balance that need? Because we all want to be happy. Who wouldn't want to be happy all the time? But if that's all we are, we're actually avoiding growth.
So I mean, I'm so into optimizing for energy. And
Yes.
even though, like, right now we are bombarded by distractions on a consistent basis. Just right now, I'm in a conversation with you, I got an alert on my computer, even though for some reason it's on, but like, we're bombarded with distractions all the time. So not feeling, it's quite easy, right? Avoiding, it's quite easy.
Yeah.
Not having the hard conversation, super easy. There's a million things. Not doing the thing that you really know you want to do, it's the easiest thing. But what happens is that unless we meet the discomfort, unless we meet the portal of expansion, how I like to call it, like that, or that desire that we might not be tapping into because we have not given ourselves space, we're gonna keep repeating the same experience, right? Whether it's in our business, with relationships, we're gonna keep people pleasing, or trying to control situations, or whatever that might look in people's patterns, behavioral patterns. So the for me, it's like, optimize your energy. Like, if you feel it, you can do something about it, because it's a cycle. Once you feel it, you're gonna be able to, like, first you're gonna go into a moment of chaos. Right? It's like, I don't know what this is, I'm going into the void, I don't have control of this emotion. But you create a container for you, because what happens when you do, whether that is an hour, a moment, an afternoon, a day, a week, if you need so, right? If you're grieving something like longer, whatever that might be. But if you create that container for yourself to be fully alive in the fullness of experience, but that could be 20 minutes too. You go through this unknown, this mystery moment, but then that mystery essentially gives you, eventually it would give you some insight, and that insight will take you into creating some actions, and those actions will eventually give you rest. And then when you do that rest, you're going to feel so good. And then you go through
Right.
the cycle again, and something else will happen in your life, and you, but at least you're not doing the same, you're not attempting to put yourself through the same lesson, and you're like, why is this always happening to me? Well, because you haven't allowed yourself to get the wisdom. And
Right.
wisdom doesn't come from, I scrolling on social media. It comes from allowing yourself to be in the depth of the beauty, right? For me, it's like you I find so beautiful to see someone come alive. It's one of the joys of my work, right? When I feel that someone is finally being honest, and I'm seeing the soul, whether that is through immense excitement and delight and pride, through when that is through the breaking because they touched a wound they never thought was there. Like those
Yeah.
moments are beautiful. Like those
Right.
moments, you want to learn to be proud of your willingness to be fully in the experience, in this human experience, because your soul came here for that. So let's
Right.
learn.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's transition now to what I think is probably one of the least understood things, but probably most desired things,
Mhm.
which is love. And I feel like most people have this surface level understanding of it as love is over there. Love is something I want, rather than the essence of who we are is love. And Rumi talks about, don't seek to find love, seek within to find everything you've built as a barrier against love. Rip all that out of there, and you are love.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts and insights? I know this is a topic that I've heard you talk a lot about. You have some amazing insights. Like, what is your view of love, and how can people have and welcome in more love into their life?
Mm. Well, we can look at love as a feeling, we could look at it as actions, but it's really the field that we are all a part of, right? We call like the field through like quantum physics. It's like you can never not be it. Love is what you are. And yet, I'm getting the story of, I'm hearing the story of in the Himalayas, they are this musk deer, right? And people go to hunt them because it is so easy to hunt them, because the people who hunt just wait at the bottom of the mountains, because they create this masculine man perfume with the musk smell. And this musk deer, they around when they hit puberty, they go crazy looking for the scent, right? And they're like looking under the rocks, looking everywhere, jumping from one mountain to the other, from one cliff to the other. They go why crazy looking for this thing. And so the hunters just wait, they throw themselves off the cliff all the time, you know.
Oh,
And what they don't know is that it's not outside, it's actually them. It's their own,
oh, wow.
right? So it's like, so it's the same thing, that love is like, we're forever trying through, whether it is for power, we look for power because we want to be lovable. In relationships, we look for it in accomplishments, in titles and accolades, in significance, and whatever that might be. But oftentimes we're throwing ourselves off these cliffs, not knowing that it's always been inside of us, right? And so
That's
it's
so
that,
true.
it's really the journey of, it really is the whole conversation we've been having, Sandy, that
Right.
it is the process of becoming very intimate with that inherent longing that you must have as a human. We all have this wound, this hollow space that is there, and many of us are terrified of it. and
Right.
we don't like it, and we are, doing everything we can to fill it. We see a lot of addiction happen because we're trying to fill it. And yes, so much of it is because there's been trauma and there's been wounding and our own personal stories. Yes, real lovership, really becoming good lovers of life, is to do the work, to integrate all of our parts, to be in good, in good reverence to our own journey, so that we're not trying to get from others to fill my
Right.
void. But
Right.
there's a deeper wound than that. There's a deeper wound than our own traumas and our own personal stories of not being lovable or not being good enough or being too much, whatever that might be,
Yeah.
your own personal thing. That deeper wound is that we are part of the light that had to leave the source. We left source to come into the material. Actually, the light had to leave all that is in order to the material to be experienced. And so that is the place that we want to become, we want to be intimate with. And it only arises from having a consistent relationship with our aloneness, with our own intimacy, of learning to love that space. Because when we start to look at that space, look inside of that anxiety, or that angst that we feel at a subtle level, and we just go deeper and deeper into it, we realize that it's actually the birth of our poetry and of beauty. It's the birth of why we love connecting and reaching and contribution and giving, because we have this desire to connect. And when we allow ourselves to connect deeply to ourselves, we become the artist of our lives, because we know that it is through creating connection in our lives, connection with others, connections with our purpose, connection with our lives, connection like in big contribution, we start to feel that source that we once left move through us.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
you could look at it like that wound. It's like the space that only God can fill. It's like only God can fill whatever, or only your aliveness can fill whatever that means for you.
Yeah. So, like, I think of love as it is on the other side of your greatest fear, which is that you're not enough.
Hmm.
That somehow you have to be something else. You have to dress a certain way, accumulate certain things to suddenly be enough. And when you strip all of that out and just realize, I'm enough. Like, I came into this world. No one looked down and said, when you were born, Sandra's a beautiful miracle. One day she's going to be great when she's a manager of this company. Right? They just saw the miracle and said, she's amazing just the way she is. And then we kind of learn from the most subtle things. I think people misunderstand trauma. They think that something big had to happen, and certainly have compassion for people who have had like unthinkable things happen to them. But trauma can be just as much like the librarian telling you you're too noisy and you need to learn how to keep your mouth shut. And you're like, oh, to fit in and belong, I need to learn how to be quiet. I
Hmm.
need to learn these behaviors. And those are all the things that we carry with us. But when we strip all that out, we realize I have a beautiful voice. I have things that, are true to me, my truth that I want to stand on. And then doing that, that is my most powerful self. And it kind of puts truth equal to love to me. I
Yeah.
think kindness and love are truth. And
Hmm.
we can live with objective truth as it is, just the way it is. That's love, right? To me.
Hmm. Yeah, I was speaking to one of my friends, who wrote this beautiful book called Love and Truth. I was like, I think that's like, love, joy, truth, expansion. They are other names for God. If you
Mm,
feel yourself inside of truth, if you feel yourself inside of joy, if you feel yourself inside of expansion, is that feeling of belonging, of connecting, of being like fully here. right? And like what we're speaking, when we're speaking about love, we could also just speak about isness and such, and like here. So our job to feel love is to land, to arrive, to be here. Is we can't experience it any other way but to be in relationship with this now intimate moment. And it is
Yeah.
precious. It is so precious when you think about it like that, because it is too simple. Right? It's like it has to be something really hard. It
Right.
has to be something that I have to work towards in order to have. But it's like if you look at the birds, if you look at the ocean, you look at, you look at like, wow, these these butterflies, they have the capacity to just go to the right place when it gets a little cold, and right, like the squirrels are doing this thing of like of harvesting, like putting seeds away for the winter, even though many of them have never experienced the winter. We're like, this is majestic, right? Like
Yeah.
nature is majestic. It's God. Wow, look at these flowers, how they face the sun. And somehow, the ego doesn't only show up when we think we're too big, it's also when we think we're too little. Somehow we think that we are not that.
Right.
Somehow we think that we are less than that, or that we have to prove ourselves. Like, you are the elements of existence. You are water, you are fire, you are air, you are earth. Like, that is the most sacred thing ever.
Yeah.
And like, recognize that you are valuable. You're desired by existence simply because you are existence itself. And to
Right.
come into recognition of that, it's a lot to hold, could be, but it's also, you don't have to wait.
Right.
Wait.
Exactly. It's just remove all the barriers that are in the way of you realizing that's who you are to begin with. Right?
Yeah.
Like literally those 5 elements of the universe, that's what we're all made of.
Hmm.
That's beautiful. So you mentioned a term in one of our conversations that just was kind of one of those light up moments when you said lovership. You
Hmm.
were playing with it as a more powerful word. Maybe I'm adding this in, but it felt to me like a more powerful word than leadership.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little about lovership.
Yeah, thank you. Though, for the longest time, I've been passionate with the idea that leadership is not a position in a business. It's not something that you are giving a title to be. It's not because you are running this amount of people. Like, leadership is a personal decision. And so I've been just hammering down on like leadership, personal leadership. Let's like move into our freedom by designing, by choosing, by activating our conscious will. And I've been just passionate about this. And in the past year and a half, it just kind of came through me, which is like, there's a more powerful way of living besides just leading our lives, which is lovership, right? And lovership is really about putting the things that matter to us, putting our relationships, putting the the preciousness of our life in center stage. Like, before everything else that we do, that it goes center stage of our lives. And what happens when we do that? I think the 80-year-old us will be quite happy. Right?
For sure.
So it's like, then it's like, I am living in a way that is ceremonial, that is reverential, that is devotional, that I am not doing to extract. I am taking the full responsibility of doing the work of really understanding my set wiring of my nervous system, my expectations, my traumas, and doing the best I can to integrate all of that, so that I can show up for what I love without expectation, without a necessity for a transaction.
Right.
Most of our,
Exactly.
yeah, how we were taught to love is, as I'm sure you know, is it is codependent, right? I give you this and then you give me something back.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
love is not like that. Love is like, can I be a pillar for your life, period? Because
Yeah.
it's good to me. But we can't do that unless we are filled with our own love.
Exactly. Exactly. Really well said. Yeah. If we're not love and anchored in it, it's
Hmm.
very hard to welcome it in and let people just be who they are.
Yeah.
I often, a lot of my business, the majority of it all comes through like corporate interactions, big on leadership. But this
Mhm.
is one of those words that people are so afraid of like if I show love, I might be taken advantage of. If I
Mhm.
show who I really am. And there's so much pretending to try to grab power, to try to grab authority, but it's
Mhm.
all forced. It's all manipulated.
Mhm.
It's so hard to get people to unpack and realize like your real power comes from a place of love. And I've studied tons of different leaders throughout history to kind of narrow down my top 10 list. But whether it's in athletics or business, some of the truly most transformational leaders who leave a legacy, not the ones that come in and like manufacture results that go away when they leave, but really create an ecosystem, all stand. They're a stand for love as the pillar of their work. Why do you think it is so hard for business people and other leaders to embrace love and really see that like their teams, for example, have the same primal needs that we all have to feel safe. So if you
Mhm.
don't feel safe, how can you really do your best? But then you see leaders kind of pounce on that and say, well, I'll lead through fear because I know I can get short-term manipulation.
Mhm.
But our 80-year-old selves have got to just be looking down, just shaking their heads saying, you
Yeah.
don't get it yet. You're
Yeah.
not going to get it until you really embrace that love's that pillar to stand on.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear more of your thoughts on that and even more expansive view of what lovership means to you.
Yeah. If we are, and I also believe that there's different levels of consciousness. And again, what's optimal with our energy, right? So like the way that I understand life is that there's only one person in the room. There's only one person ever that we're having a relationship with, that we're having a conversation with. There's only one person in the room. What does that mean? Is that life is like a boomerang, right? It's like every action, every word that I'm throwing, it's like it's coming right back at me. Maybe not today, maybe not in this relationship or this business transaction. It's coming at some point. Life is circular. We look at every particle of light is a sphere. The earth is a sphere. Our energetic body is a sphere. Everything goes around. What goes around comes around. And so it's just optimizing for our energy. So if I'm forever loving myself, right? It's just like I am forever in a relationship of one. I'm forever loving self. Not just self as the ego of Sandra, but self as the source that is moving through me. So I can do that simply by when I'm paying at a cashier. Hello, I'm looking at you in the eyes. I don't have to love you, and I don't have to tell you all my traumas, and I don't have to, be vulnerable. People confuse vulnerability oftentimes as like I have to just open up and share everything with you. It can also be looked at, just be open.
Yeah.
Find that being open is more powerful. Be open, be present, show yourself. Give people dignity by acknowledging their existence wherever they are. And if you are meeting everyone in that way, you're meeting yourself for sure in that way. So it's like meet yourself with that level of dignity so that it becomes second nature. That all your transactions, that everything that you do, that you create a life where you are a beauty maker, that you're walking a path of beauty, that you can leave every place more beautiful than you found it because you looked at someone and you asked, by calling them by their name, hey, I heard you speak about that last week. How is your son doing? Personal. It's not about like oversharing, it's about giving the dignity of a human to feel seen, giving
Right.
yourself the dignity of saying I see you, because that's intimacy. It's not about like, we don't have to be best friends with absolutely everyone, because having boundaries is a way to optimize our energy as well. But if we start to live in a life where it's like, this is my garden, and understand that your life, just like your body, is your garden, and that the way that you treat all the seeds in this garden, all the plants in this garden, will just be what flourishes for you. And that you never, it really is not about who is watching, but it's about how do I want to view life when I wake up in the morning? What kind of garden do I want to see? They've done studies on the people that are the most likable people. in many colleges. They did these studies, right?
Yeah.
And most
Yeah.
likable people were not the sports, the people who were killing it in sports or in academics. They were simply the people who liked people more. Right? They're the people who really like people. And so it's just a choice, it's a decision to pay attention again, to land in the experience, to pay a detail to, it's like God is in the details, to give a pause before you respond so that you can be present with what somebody else is saying. It's so simple. Love is about arriving into truth, into joy, into aliveness, into expansion. We were back at the same conversation, right? It's like,
Right.
how can I emanate that? How can I become like an acupuncture point into the planet so that where I go, there's harmony all around? Like, so vibrant. If we can
Right.
do that, like we're all igniting each other like healthy viruses. And so that's the garden I choose to live in. Mhm.
Yeah. Oh, that's so great. So I know that one of the most important things in my work is to anchor in and develop the proof to people so that they can see they can accomplish more by leaning into love, like by having that as your pillar, as a leader. Because leaders are afraid, if I do this, I'm going to lose control of my team. I'm going to have bad results. I'm going to get fired. I'm going to be made fun of. What will people be saying about me? And I really look forward to, anchoring in as these results become more and more um, available, being able to show people like your real power and your real ability to lead with ease, comes from being a more expansive leader, making room for people's reality. Because when you make room and honor their reality through their own experience, level of awareness, and everything else, like that's their truth. And if they don't feel like they get to live in their truth, they're not going to like who they are when they're at work or when they're on your team. So, how could they possibly perform their best? But if you can instill that power in them, you'll unleash a power you didn't even know existed while you were trying to control and make sure everyone thought the way you thought, acted the way you acted. And that's just like the least powerful position you could be in. There's one study in particular right now that's on my mind. It's a Gallup study that showed just from 2020 to 2025, the percentage of people who feel like there's anyone, especially their boss, that just cares about them as a human being has dropped almost 15%. So it's now down to where 7 out of 10 people don't even think someone at work cares about them as a human being, which just seems so empty,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
How can we, like as a collective, how can we better engage and let people know and experience and step out of that fear that they're not going to be as powerful, and help them recognize their power? Any thoughts that you have there?
Oof, so many thoughts. The first one that comes to mind is that as high achievers, there is the high achievers, high purpose driven people, right? Um, the necessity to control is a saboteur that is very strong in most people that are going a million hours per hour.
Yeah.
And by the way, that has worked. It might have worked
Oh,
in
for
the
sure.
past. And we just want to become aware, okay, that has worked in the past. It got me to where I am, but am I really happy? Is that thing that got me here still the thing that I want to take me there? Do I
Right.
have to keep sacrificing my relationship with my body, my relationship with my relation with other people, my relationship with how I view myself and how other people view me, because it matters, right? And
Yeah.
if you start, if you just, I'm thinking about the positive intelligence research that shows that the main 8 or 9 saboteurs that they've done tons of research on, and the controller is the part of us that is keeping us from being in contribution, allowing contribution in, allowing other people to support us. So the people that end up being in control and trying to get it through and trying to make everything right, they're carrying this heavy load, because in their mind it is saying like, if I don't do it, it doesn't get done unless I
Right.
do everything. Again, that's a subtle victimhood pattern there, right? Because
For
you
sure.
have trained yourself to carry such heavy load, and and you're getting a little hit, a little enjoyment out of your life being so hard, because we were all convinced and indoctrinated to believe that you are more of a human if you suffer to get what you want.
Right.
That worked. Okay, that worked. We're in a different level of consciousness. We're in a different world. Now we can see that it's becoming almost no longer like the what some mystics knew about, but is it's like we have science to back it up, that like attracts like, right? In physics we understand that like attracts like, that the energy precedes outcomes, that the energy that you're creating with has so much to say about what outcomes come back to you. So if you're leading and creating from an energy of tightness, an energy of overwhelm, an energy of burning yourself out, of not having good relationship with your body, you're not being a creative being. You're being a machine of repetition.
Right.
Nobody is attracted to a machine of repetition, because a machine of repetition lacks life force and brightness and curiosity and wonder and desire to connect. It is on a one man's journey, and we are desiring as nature to create more connection. Like nature desires to connect and to create wholeness, and the moment that you start giving people trust by knowing your own patterns and dealing with that on your own, and understanding that, just optimize for energy, like just like be optimal with the use of your energy. If you
Yeah.
allow other people to support you, you will be mesmerized by how they rise to leadership. But if you walk into a presentation or a meeting, and you just, before you go in, you know that the people are not at your level, and you know that they can't get it done, and you know that it's going to be up to you, and someone's definitely messed up because that has happened to you in the past, and you carry that predictive mind and that expectation, you're most likely going to get that. But if we
Right.
go with like, guys, we're all leaders here. Help me figure this out, and just start masterminding. Now people are curious. Now people are one. Now you're activating play and curiosity, and also you're allowing dignity. That you're not seeing yourself as higher than. You're allowing the space of sameness, and really thinking about other people's nervous system relaxing so that creativity can pour in. Like that's a person you want to be around. So that makes you magnetic. And what you do in one area, if you start to practice this in your work, it starts to spread every area of your life. So
Right.
so it's a very intelligent way of using your energy.
Yeah, and not only in your life, that it certainly has ripple effects into your health, your relationships, your own wealth, your purpose, but the ripple effect it has on your team members' lives, on their relationships, on like pretty soon everybody in the ecosystem loves who they get to be, all because of the ecosystem that you've created as a leader.
Mm-hmm.
Such a fascinating conversation. I, I'm sure we actually probably have tons of questions for people to ask, but it was so interesting. I just kind of got immersed in the conversation, and here we are running out of time.
Mm-hmm.
Sandra, I want to thank you, along with all of our viewers, for your time today. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for the way that you showed up with the intention to help people. It's very
Mm-hmm.
noticeable.
Mm-hmm.
Joe, did you have anything you wanted to ask?
Thank you, Joe.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and close it out. Thank you, everyone, for joining in. This has been an expansive life conversation with Sandra Tru. Sandra, we're so blessed to have you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, but yes, so you can find more of my stuff at sandratru.com. And yeah, I just wishing that again you activate your freedom and become very aware of the tendency to victimhood and use it as an alert system, not as an enemy, to help you go into what your choice is. Sending so much love, so much gratitude for you, Sandy, for this amazing podcast. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. And you can find Sandra Tru on Instagram as well. And it is at Sandra Tru
Underscore. Yeah.
underscore. Yeah, I knew there was one other character.
Yes.
Well, thank you again so much. I know everyone who does follow you will be super excited that they did. Thank you again for sharing. Thanks for everybody's time. This has been another episode of an Expansive Life Conversation. Please like and subscribe, and we'll be back with you next week with Colleen Rue from 29029, as well as the Iron Man. She is the MC of the Hill, and she's going to talk about the life transformations she sees on the mountain with these incredible endurance events. So until next week, have an amazing rest of your week, and thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for watching an Expansive Life Conversation. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. See you next week.